what's your full name?
I'm Roger Rupnow.
And your date of birth?
8/31/27.
And tell me where you grew up.
I grew up in Monroe, Wisconsin, a small city of about 6,000 people in the southern part of Wisconsin. It was known nationwide as the Swiss cheese capital of the United States because it was the basis for making Swiss cheese.
Great. Did you grow up on a farm or?
No, my dad worked in the post office.
Okay.
And so we lived in Monroe, and we're in a small house with my brother and mother and dad. The four of us all together. We're a family for many years.
Where did you fall in among your siblings?
I was the oldest of two boys.
Okay.
My brother was about 2 years younger than I, and he passed away last October, a year ago in October.
Okay. What was his name?
Richard. It was a Richard and Roger, or Roger and Richard. It was Helen Doyle was my mother, maiden name, and my dad was Otto Henry Rupnow. And he worked in the post office for 35 years and retired in the middle 1970s.
Okay, so you went to, how old were you when you entered the service?
17. I graduated from high school in May of 1945 and left about 2 weeks later with two of my other classmates who went to Great Lakes, Illinois, to boot camp in Great Lakes. And we were there by virtue of having passed a test for to determine whether we might be I forgot what the name of it was now, but the RT program, the radio tech program.
Okay.
And as a result of that, we got a shorter boot camp, and we also got first class Seaman rating as we went in, and ultimately got a little more money. We got $66 a month instead of $50 a month as a seaman So, and went through boot camp for, I don't think, probably sometime in July. And then we graduated and we went to a high school, the Hugh Manley High School in a suburb of Chicago, as the first section of our training to be RT Tech. And we spent probably 6 or 8 weeks there. Part of that was the end of the war. And the question then was what this program, the RT program, had a 3-stage operation. One was in the Hugh Manley High School, another was in one of other 3 locations, and then there was a third one if the war obviously had been on. But we had a choice once we got out of the high school of that phase of the education. We had an opportunity to pick where we wanted to go. And there were several places in Missouri and Texas, and I picked California. I thought that would be a good trip, but I felt I wasn't that good a student, and the likelihood of going there was slim. Well, it turned out I was lucky, and I got a train ride to Del Monte, California. And the next base of ours was the Del Monte Hotel. So we literally lived in the hotel because the Navy had taken it over, and it is the Naval Graduate School to this date. It changed from what we were doing to something else, to the graduate program, but it's still in Navy control. And then stay there. The war was over, and they were trying to determine what to do with us. And they had a training or analysis of our skills, and I talked to the fellow, and he said something about typing, and I said, well, I took a class in high school, fortunately, to type. And he said, you can type? And I said, yes, I can type. Lied a little bit, but I could type. I knew what a typewriter was. So they sent me to what was known as the Yeoman Demobilization School in San Diego, the San Diego Naval Base. And so then I went to San Diego and spent about 6 weeks, I think it was 6 or 7 weeks, half days learning how to type and half days learning forms. And after the graduation of that phase, I got on a train and ended up in Millington, Tennessee, which is their naval base there, believe it or not, which is Millington is just about 10 miles north of Memphis.
Yeah, my brother was stationed there.
Really?
Back in the early 80s, I guess.
I didn't know whether it was still a naval base or not, but it was training for beginning flight training, because they had these single-engine planes that had the big flapping propellers. And they could adjust the propeller, and there was a lot of flap, 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 flap when they were flying. But they also created a major military or paper shuffling place. So that's where, at a discharge center. So I spent some time there, and then in August of 1946, I was discharged and came back to Wisconsin and enrolled in the University of Wisconsin in 1946 in September. And and have had lots of good friends, contact with some of my buddies over the years. Most of them are no longer around, but then I ultimately finished school at the University of Wisconsin, changed my major from engineering to urban planning, and became an urban planner, and took a job in Milwaukee and in 1953, and married my charming wife in 1953. So, and we've spent time in Wisconsin, both in the field of, as an urban planner, I'm unique because there are probably no other urban planners who have dabbled in the three most contentious issues in planning or in development. One is annexation, and two is urban renewal, and three is zoning. And those are the most contentious things, and I've worked in all three of them. I ran the urban renewal program in Milwaukee or in Madison, the annexation program in Milwaukee, and then ultimately the urban renewal program, and then joined the faculty at Georgia Institute of Technology to teach planning and urban renewal. We moved from Wisconsin. I went work both in Milwaukee and in Madison, and then we moved to Atlanta in 1966 and joined the faculty at the Georgia Institute of Technology and in their program of urban planning program. They have a master's degree program, one of the first graduate degree programs in the country, and worked there from 1966 to 1992 when I retired. And we've been here. We've raised a family of 5 kids. We have, if you're a poker player, we have what's known as a full house, 3 kings and 2 queens. And they're still all around. The youngest one is in Boston. I have one in Knoxville, Tennessee, one in Birmingham, Alabama, one in Atlanta, and who am one in Greensboro, North Carolina. And as I said, 3 boys and 2 girls. Ironically, we have no biological grandchildren, but we do have 2 granddaughters as a result of a second marriage, and we have 6 great-grandchildren as a result of that marriage too. So we've lived in the same house since 1966, and still are able to be out and about on occasion, and are surviving the virus. So I'm happy to answer other questions.
So as you know, being involved in urban planning and all, I guess you've seen a lot of change here.
Yes, we have. When we came to Atlanta, the population was just under 1 million, and now it's over 10 million.
Wow.
We've seen a lot of change over the years. Although, interestingly enough, and this street was developed this street that we live on was developed in 1965, and this house was built in 1965. And the lady who still lives next door to us moved in 1965. So she's been here ever since this development began, and we've been here after the first year. And actually, there's a young couple, well, I shouldn't say young, couple who live in the house across the street from us, whose parents were here. And the parents have left or have passed away, and these kids have lived here now, and the son and his wife, and they're moving out now, so they're going someplace else. But most of the people here in this street have turned over, but we're still here, enjoying it.
That's a long time.
And we were out in the country. The people at Georgia Tech wondered why I was living out here in the country when we bought out here. And it turned out that we've been here long enough that there were several of us, including myself, petitioned the state of Georgia to allow us to create another city. So we now have the city of Sandy Springs, which is a city of about 100,000. And it became a city in 2005. And I was one of the 4 original petitioners that went to the governor to get to be a city of Sandy Springs, and was involved in. I was the chairman of the initial planning commission of the city, and so have been active in local governmental issues over the years. I've served on the county planning board, county zoning board, the county's board of education, and I think those are the 3. Oh, and the county's library board. I'm currently serving on the library board for the county. So I've been active in local events and have enjoyed it all. I'm a sort of politician at heart. I've run for political office, not succeeded on a couple occasions, but enjoyed it, and have had an interest in local governmental issues.
What offices did you hold?
I was the chairman of the town planning commission, and I was a member of the city's planning, or the county's planning commission, and a member of the county's board of zoning appeals, and a member of the county's board of education. At one point, when I became a member of the county board of education, you got on that board by appointment by the there's an organization that's sort of a subset of the county board, and they appointed board members to the Board of Education. So you had to apply, and they picked you, and they picked me, and I served on the board for several years too. So it was a county-wide education program. Challenging, enjoyable, demanding. So that sort of sums up. I appreciate the opportunity to record it, and
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is why I do this, just as a thank you for your
Well.
service, and I had to say sacrifice too, because everybody sacrificed something
Yeah,
back then to be a part of the war effort.
I appreciate that. It's really an opportunity. I'm happy to do that, believe me. Get a little testy at times.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I should, well,